easy. Now you just created an opening and an opportunity for Brendan Othman. Now I think the Brendan Othman now, I think he needs an opportunity now. I think he should be on the team for the rest of the year. I think this is the prime example now, and I think I really wonder. This was somebody going back 3-4 years ago that this was like the second coming. This was the future for this team. And I think last year when we brought him up for a game and sent him back down, and he did a lot of stints, you really wonder what that does to a player. And I think now that you have an opportunity, the future of this team is so in limbo. This is the prime opportunity to bring some of these guys up and play them, especially if I'm not calling this season a lost cause. But if you don't make the playoffs, and again, it's going to be an uphill battle, you could still get there. You're only 4 points out. But again, it's going to be tough. And I think, not that these are meaningful games, but if you don't make the playoffs, or even if you make the playoffs and get eliminated in the first or second round, let's get some of these assets some playing time. Let's get them experience. Let's get Matt Rempe in there. Let's get Othman in there. Let's keep Othman in there. There should be absolutely no reason why Othman gets sent down again for the rest of the season. He should be a mainstay in this lineup. Do you agree with me?
I do. And a lot of our special guests concur with you, Steve, which I'm glad to say. Dan Rosen, Colby Cohen, and Steve Ellis all have come on this show in the last month, right? And there's been a lot of action to talk about. Dan Rosen came on the week before JT Miller was traded to the Rangers and said the same thing. At this point, I feel if you're listen, actually, I'm going to pull up Daily Faceoff to kind of display what you and I are talking about because I think it puts a lot into context when you look at the lineup as is.
I think
See, is
when
it up?
you take a look at it too, like you look at, Kako and other, players that didn't pan out, like playing time is so important. So you got to give the opportunities.
Right? And Steve, look at this lineup. Honestly, it's quite unflattering. Very quickly, we went from a full contender that was nickel and diming for pieces like Gustafson, Quick, and Wheeler a summer ago. And now you're looking at the lineup and saying, oh, this is starting to look like a little more than just like a light retool. But with that said, you mentioned Othman. He's going to be in the lineup. Berard, who I thought looked very good for a stint, he's now in the lineup. And I think Berard is in the lineup right now. But Gabriel Perreault, when the season ends for Boston College, whenever that may be, it will not go longer than April. He will be in the lineup. And this is great because if this team finds its way in the playoffs, that's great experience for them. And if not, you've sold, you've acquired assets, and you're giving players that are going to help this team in the future the opportunity to play in the National Hockey League. So I 100% agree with you, Steve. The one thing I'll add, though, I did mention it just now. We are, the Rangers are looking a lot thinner than I anticipated. And we'll likely see Riley Smith go and maybe some other pieces that are uh, easier to move. But I think if this team wants to get better, whether it's the trade deadline or the summer, they're going to have to trade someone with value. And I think that's going to be a harder conversation for you and I to have.
I agree 100% with you. How
Like
about
this team is, you can't go into next year with this team. And we know that's not going to be the case, but oof,
you're
this
right.
lineup quickly changed.
You're right. And you do have Chris Kreider not in there. He's out.
And
But
Foxy.
and Fox too as well. But I do want to appreciate, let's be positive for a second. Will Cooley, right there on the second line with JT and Mika, he's looked absolutely fantastic. I mean, Will Cooley, I did not think when this was a player that surprised us all and made the team out of training camp last year. I did not think he would develop into the type of player he is. I mean, he has been one of our best players all season long on all aspects, physicality, creating plays, he's been a spark, and the one thing that I said last year in my end of the year grades is I want to see him capitalize a little bit more on offensive opportunities. And he's done that this year. You look at The 2-goal game that he had a couple weeks ago in Columbus, that was a big win. He's had some big goals. He had the game tying goal Friday against the Leafs shorthanded. By the way, we are the best shorthanded team in the NHL. Records and not. I don't know how we're so good shorthanded. We should just play the whole game shorthanded. But yeah, Will Cooley's been awesome. So I cannot stress that enough. Like he is a dog.
And Steve, you know what I take away from that statement? Chris Drury selected him with a second round draft pick. And I'm not saying that every draft pick, right? It's a lottery. And that is the reality of the prospect competition with the NHL draft. 32 teams now, and they're all looking to gain prospective players through that system. The marketing makes you believe that every pick is going to hit, and we know that's not true, especially in New York. But when they do hit, it does give you some hope that the Rangers just got their own second round pick back from Colorado for two players that were not going to be on the roster next year. And that was also a player drafted by Chris Drury, Brendan Othman, drafted by Chris Drury. So that's great to see that they're in the lineup. And I love what you said about Cooley, that he's an impact player. This is a player that now is on the second line. He's become impact. And if you make the proper moves, it only makes your team deeper if he's back to the third line next season. And that's what I love about his style of play. It really does adjust to wherever he is on this team.
Yeah, and I think I don't even know why I'm saying this, but we all know there's zero chance that we're trading Offman or Perot. I like you said, I think there's a better fact that these players, especially Perot, was in the lineup, then he will be traded. So I don't know why I felt the need to say that, but I think it's very obvious if you're sitting there wondering, what are the Rangers going to do this trade deadline? I think it's very simple. It's going to be retooling for the future, and